And
Alright.
and we are live. Let me go make sure we are okay. Yes, the stream is working. Yeah, good morning. Hello, hello. Hi.
Hello.
Good morning, everyone. Let me just set some watch party over at our fintech group and the personal finance group. Hi, welcome everyone. This is Daniel, Daniel Cervantes with the Next Asia. Today I have one I'll say Wilson. I know you for more than 10 years already. It's like really
Yeah, in a long
really
time.
one of my old friends.
Yeah.
Like since TEDx day. So actually,
Yeah.
welcome. I finally managed to get you, and also his
Thank you, thank
co-founder
you.
Yen Ming,
Yeah.
who is my fellow Malaccan and special guest. Special guest. Okay,
Special guest.
one
Special guest.
special guest, Winnie.
Oh,
Hey, right. I'm
wow.
back.
You
Oh
have,
my
you have
god.
long life, Winnie.
Welcome,
You have your life, Winnie.
Internet just like went off for the whole house.
Uh,
Okay, let's do a quick let's go do a quick history and background and introduce yourself and what is Policy Street? Maybe can we start with Winnie and before your internet gets disconnected again?
Oh, sure. Back. So you want to know about our background and
No,
what we
yourself
do, is
like
it?
like your background, just a quick one. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Winnie. I am one of the co-founder and also the chief product officer of PolicyStreet. So what we are is we are a insurance technology company. We have in existence for 3.5 years right now, and also we are a financial advisor approved by Bank Negara, which is the central bank of Malaysia. Myself, I have
Full
close to a
disclosure,
decade.
full disclosure, my
Yeah,
ex-client.
close to a decade of insurance background. Started off as an actuarial in the actuarial team for the insurance company. Worked my way up. Did a bit of strategy work. Decided, you know what, corporate's not my thing anymore. Came out to be crazy enough to join these two co-founders of mine to dabble into entrepreneurship. So yeah, just a little bit about myself.
So
Thanks for having us here.
before we go to Wilson and Yanming now, who convinced you to join?
yo.
Both lah. They trapped me lah. So no choice.
It took us a long time, many months.
Yeah, we had a few lunches, no choice about
Yeah.
that, man. No, man. You
And
have to bring
we
up.
had to take turns, We had to take turn one by one first.
Sunek is like saying Team Winnie, so you got a fan
Yeah.
here.
Oh, thank you.
Let's go.
Yeah, Yeming, how about you?
Sure. Hey, thanks, Daniel. So, like what Daniel said, so I'm from Malacca. So most likely, we got to know from all the Malaccans that's out there. So I've been in the corporate sector for about 16 years across 7 different multinationals lah. So I was with the largest telco, which is Maxis, for a good 7 to 8 years, and I was also with numerous banks lah. So I was with Standard Chartered Bank, HSBC Bank, and also Citibank. So before I left 3.5 years ago, I was actually heading the marketing team in Standard Chartered Bank. So I was a director in the bank. And I took the plunge together with Wilson and Winnie. So it was not a direct decision then, but then again, I've not regretted a single day since we've started this journey. So that's about me.
And finally, Wilson, like my old friend. And
All right. Yeah. Hi, Daniel. It's good to be on a live show after getting to know each other for, I don't know, 10 years? More
10
than
years,
10
man.
years.
10
Yeah.
years. When I know you, were you still a student?
Yeah, I was still a student, well, partially thanks to TEDx, I was bitten by the entrepreneurial bug. Co-started a TEDx conference in Penang, which Daniel was the lead in TEDx KL. I think you are still the lead, and you came down, and that opportunity exposed me to the entrepreneurship world. So after I graduated, I went into banking. I was attached to the largest bank in town, doing investment banking for regional companies, mainly in Greater China, Philippines, Indonesia, and Vietnam, to help them in their regional expansion exercises, mainly to look into debt financing. But not until about 4 years plus, 5 years plus, the fintech bus came along, and I decided to take the leap of faith to go into entrepreneurship.
Mm.
Oh, wow. And we will talk about PolicyStreet a bit later. But, one of the main reasons we got you to actually to talk about the future of fintech, future of Insurtech. But we have one very important question and targeted to Yen Ming, and this is from Dave. Which school were you from in Malacca?
I was from Malacca High School, so I was there from 1 all the way to my upper 6. So I was there all the way from Malacca High School. Before that, I was from Bandar Hile Primary School.
I'm from the school across the road, actually. Same with Dave.
Wow.
Yeah. But you are the same school with my ex business partner Jason Ng, also my curator for that. Yeah. So yes, I know it's a very Team Malacca thing. Thank you.
Now it seems that the product have shifted to Team Malacca. What about Team Penang? We are also UNESCO, cities.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch, but for everyone who have questions about fintech, Insurtech, this is they've been around in the industry for a while. They've been really active in the fintech community. So feel free to ask questions about that, and let's dive into it. So this is, everyone say this is a very interesting time for tech and insurance tech, and there's so much buzz going about it. What is one of the biggest misconceptions about fintech?
Misconception.
I'll just jump in. Then of course, Wilson and Winnie can just jump in. I think one of the misconceptions is that it is easy. It's easy to just jump into fintech. Because people think that, now is where the buzzword is about fintech. People want to go and, become very successful businesses in fintech. It's not easy. The reason for that is because fintech is regulated. And I want to point out the fact that there is a lot of regulation behind fintech, whether you're doing e-wallets, whether you're doing money transfers, whether you're doing lending, whether you're doing insurance, or even if you're doing wealth management. All of those have regulation behind it. And that is the biggest challenge in innovation towards fintech. So I think that's my point of contention, that fintech, it's a buzzword. I think it's happening that a lot of people are trying to put technology behind finance, but it is still a very regulated sector, very regulated industry. Let me put it this way.
Yeah, if I can add to the point, I think another challenging front in the fintech ecosystem is that you need to have capable people who really understand financial services in order to thrive in the fintech world. Because fintech is very much different from other industries. You need to have the insights on what are the gaps, how to move around the regulatory side of things. And most importantly, you need to also understand what makes customers come to you. So this is where I think PolicyStreet, we have a very good team. All of us come from the financial services sector in banking and insurance. And we are pretty dynamic when it comes to injecting different ideas to make our fast-growing fintech startup to work and to grow.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you.
I wanted to add on that another challenge actually running a fintech startup. I think you can consider yourself, even insurance companies can have a fintech arm, even banks can have a fintech arm. But the challenge of becoming a fintech startup is the delicate balance between having the right knowledge of insurance or financial sector and the ability to run fast. It's a little bit of a paradox. In the financial services, right, it's all about proper governance and regulation and structure. But at the same time, as a startup, you need to run fast, you need to scale, you need to grow. So there's this paradox that we are always battling. Like, okay, how can we, as three ex-corporate people with industry experience, how can we unlearn every time? Because same for myself, right? Coming from insurance background, I have a lot of preconceived notions about how the insurance product should work. But I need to step behind and unlearn and try to absorb new perspectives and new exposure. And that is actually a real paradox that a lot of fintech startup entrepreneurs will have to go through. Yeah.
So in terms of when you guys mentioned a lot of regulation and there are so-called fintech startup out there that are not exactly regulated. They move. They are somewhat in the gray area. Like, what would you advise for consumers generally looking at that, looking at fintech companies?
So I think the first advice you would do is to ensure that you know which regulation you are playing with. You know what kind of approvals, what kind of licenses, what kind of associations, or even the central bank or even Securities Commission. What are the requirements for you to dabble into fintech? Like, you need to make sure that you are compliant to those regulations, because the last thing you want is to dabble with money, and this is people's money, consumers' money, and yet you are not authorized to dabble into that sector, that part of it. And it's I mean, when I was in the bank, even if you lose 1 cent in your bank account, for example, today you've got 210 cents. Tomorrow the bank says you only got 209 cents. Even 1 cent, you will be very particular as an owner of the bank account. You'll say, hey, what happened to my 1 cent? Is there a scam? Is there a sudden person who went in and hacked into my account? So that's why it is very, very crucial for you to actually understand where are the regulations and how do you comply to that before you actually jump into the bandwagon. I think that's the first thing that you should do. Same thing with us when we dabbled into insurance when we first started. It was not easy because we've already got a sector that's already available for more than 100 years, a century-old sector, and there's already clear definitions in terms of what you can do and what you cannot do. And of course, there are a lot of agents out there, there are a lot of intermediaries out there, and of course, there are insurers out there. And there's also this regulation behind Bank Negara and in terms of how they're regulating the sector. So we needed to understand what we are playing with, what are the areas which we could innovate, what are the areas that we could then maybe put certain changes to the processes, changes to the offerings, and so forth. I think that was the biggest consideration for us.
Okay. Yeah, Winnie, you also mentioned a very good point. Basically, there are fintech startups and there are existing companies with fintech teams. Yeah. So how does a fintech startup would actually compete with some of these big boys, basically? Because one of this, when you, especially when Wilson and Yen Ming mentioned the challenge is basically in terms of regulation and working with all the government entities in terms of where fintech is coming from. But on the second side, there's also this extreme pressure coming in from well-established players like banks or insurance company who have like millions and millions of dollars to build teams and etc. Like, what would be the advice for fintech startups to compete with them?
Sure. I think everyone has their own pros and advantages and disadvantages. So being in the comfort of a large organization with a lot of money, for sure, does come with its disadvantage. For instance, your budget may not be approved every time. You need to go through many bureaucracies in order to get some sort of budget. And of course, as a to be part of a big conglomerate, there's always targets. And innovation, sometimes you may not see the fruits of your labor so immediately. It may take 2 years, it may take 3 years. Not many corporates are willing to put down that money to let a small team to run innovation and strategies. And then if there's no ROI, then what happens next? So there's always this pros and cons when it comes to having running a fintech startup, where you're more nimble, you are definitely not confined with this corporate governance thing or budget approvals, because basically you can run it yourself. But at the same time, on the flip side, you have fintech arms, which are part of a bank or an insurance company, where you have that leverage in terms of your breadth, your connections, partnerships, monetary access. But at the same time, you also have to deal with all those usual corporate governance and of course the idea of risk versus returns, right? In every entrepreneurship journey, you always have to think about what kind of things that you want to put in now and what kind of returns that you're expecting, whether is it near term, immediate term, or in the long term. So I think that is we still, as a startup, we still have our advantages, we still have our own ways of I would say, collaborating and competing with fintech arms of insurance companies and also banks. Yeah.
Wilson, Yen Ming, in terms of the overall trend, what are we seeing basically when you guys started a couple of years back and now, and also moving forward, are there any key significant trends in terms of fintech, or what will the next 5 years of fintech be? Because we are seeing a lot of jump into e-wallet and etc. Then all of a sudden COVID-19 happened, and some of the e-wallets are no longer active, and so forth. What do you see?
Wilson, over to you.
Sure. I think the entire development of the fintech space in Malaysia has grown tremendously. About 5 years ago, when I co-started the fintech community, the entire industry was still pretty much nascent. The word fintech was not even a buzzword yet, and there were not too much interest in Malaysia. However, if you look at today, the entire industry, I would say it has matured considerably, and we have very supportive regulators and also ecosystem partners, for example, MDEC and a few other government agencies. What we are seeing today is that there are a few verticals in fintech which are benefiting out of this entire COVID-19 crisis, or what we call the stay-at-home movement, right? I was just reading an article last Friday. One of the online stock trading platform licensed by SC, they have recorded a jump of 200% of number of new customers in MCO itself. It's a share trading platform, I believe, because there are not many things that one can do at home, right? This is where you go onto stock market to look into investments. Mm-hmm. And from there, you will go into a customer-friendly fintech platform to make your decisions. Similarly, in insurance, it's the same, right? Because there are a lot more people who understand the importance of protection in this healthcare crisis. And where do they go? Of course, they could choose to go back to the conventional route, to engage with someone, to go through the advisory process. But today, it may not be too possible due to the lockdown. So this is where they'll go into an online Insurtech or fintech platform to look for protection needs. So what I think in the next 2 years, we'll see a proliferation of fintech models. But this also means that it will be the game of survival of the fittest. Today, we have more than 40 e-wallet licenses in Malaysia being awarded. But I believe in the next 2 years, even today, we are seeing that who are the top 5 or who are the top 3 already. So there will be more convergence of different models, different players to come together. Similarly, in Hong Kong, where there are a lot more fintech startups come together to apply for a license so that they are able to morph into a more competitive and a more established player as opposed to competitors of other financial institutions.
Yeah, so I echo what Wilson is saying, and what I wanted to point out was that I don't think the fintech sector itself, the areas of fintech will change. Today we know very well payments, lending, transfers, wealth management, insurance. These are top 5 key sectors of fintech. I don't think the sectors will change, and today it is heavily dominated by payment and also lending. But what I want to point out is the change in behavior. I think that's what's happening now. The change in behavior where in emerging markets like Malaysia or even in Southeast Asia, you will see a shift of people moving, not just doing it offline, but moving towards online. So I think that's where the shift will happen. A lot of developed markets are already seeing that shift, are already adopting that shift. So now this has just fast-tracked. The crisis, the unprecedented crisis has just fast-tracked the adoption level where people are then forced to adopt it. Because normally, like for example, if I give you an example of insurance, generally you will be more comfortable to talk to your agent to buy a policy. And that has been ongoing for the last 100 years, and it's not been changed. But today, because of this stay-at-home and the controls in terms of our movements and the virus, in terms of impinging, in terms of our restrictions on going out to meet people face-to-face, it has changed the way that the sales cycle changes. So, and I think that change will continue to evolve, and that's where we will see a new norm now. That's for my aim now.
Yeah, in terms of user behavior, you mentioned there's a lot of changes. that are happening, and a lot of acceleration towards online. Like Winnie, do you think that the traditional insurance model or the traditional fintech model will survive after COVID-19?
Good question. I think the survival it's dependent on how fast they can meet those demands, changing demands. The traditional models can actually also innovate themselves, and disrupt themselves, and to add on various digital initiatives in order to help them create a better customer experience. For instance, I've heard, I've seen many different examples in the world. Even traditional brokers are now going online to do consultation online. They can actually also, do virtual consultations, and then close the sale online as well. So I think my point is, I don't think we are living in a world that is so black and white anymore, where if you are already in this business, it's really about pivoting and surviving and thriving. And so in a COVID-19 scenario, it really forces traditional channels to change. But if they don't, then they have to also be aware that that may be that may resulting in them being left behind in the new norm that we are living in. Yeah.
So in terms of like outside trend, like what Winnie mentioned, what are the outside trends like globally that we have yet to see in Malaysia?
I think I think all of us we had the opportunity to undergo an intensive training in Hangzhou in Alibaba. So if we were to compare the China market and also the Malaysian market, it is vastly different. Malaysia, I will put us into what we call in the more matured banking industry sector, similar to Singapore or the West. Our ATM network is wide. Our banking system is robust. However, in China, 10 years ago, essentially what they had done was to leapfrog the landline model to the internet model. And they have a unifying factor, which is e-wallet, the likes of Alipay, right, or WeChat Pay, which unifies billions of people in China. And hence, the flourishing of new business models could be made very easily because there is already an active ecosystem in China. For example, in Alibaba, they have this 310 mechanism for loan approving, San Yiling, 3 minutes to apply, 1 second to know your decision, whether you are approved or not, and zero collateral, right? And they also have this, what we call, similar to a Takafu insurance concept, 相互保, where there are more than 100 million PRC which are on board on this product. So they are very fast because there's an unifying active ecosystem. However, in Malaysia, or to some extent, most of the emerging markets in this region, we have not seen a unifying active ecosystem which binds the majority of the population yet. Perhaps you could say the closest would be maybe Grab, because most Southeast Asians are using that. But we have yet to see that an active ecosystem in this region, which is very extremely important to enhance and advance the future growth of fintech.
Okay, maybe I will just add on a little bit. I want to add on more on the layman side of things. So I know Winnie and Wilson, they were fortunate enough. I'm sure Daniel, you were also fortunate enough. And you guys went to an entrepreneur in China, in Hangzhou, in China. You had your own, Alipay set up. You got your own banking account and all. When I went for the 10 by 1,000 program, we were not fortunate enough. No banking account for us. We were there for 1 week. We had Alipay. We downloaded Alipay, but Alipay didn't work. So we were here in the airport having cash. We brought cash. We brought yuan. And yet we cannot pay because the taxi driver looked at us and said, no, you only want Alipay. Or Alipay or WeChat Pay, but nothing else. So here we are, stranded for 1 week in China, and we also went, after the entire session, we also went sightseeing. I still remember we went sightseeing. We cannot buy things because we don't have Alipay. And when we went, for example, we went to KFC or we went to Starbucks, for example, and when we gave the guy cash, he looked at us and said, "Oh, you're paying in cash, Let me check whether I got change at the back or not. Let me check first whether I can accept your cash or not." So So the entire ecosystem has evolved in China, and we as a external party going in to that system was not even able to adapt because we were not part of that ecosystem. So what I'm saying is that trend is happening. So within a closed ecosystem, there are already trends happening. In China, which has 1.4 billion people, they're already changing it. So, and conversely, if I look at, for example, in more developed markets, I just do an example. For example, in Australia, for example, when I was in Australia, people tend to use cards to tap. Like in Malaysia, right? Malaysia, you just take out your cash, you go to your Chapan store, you get out your cash and so forth. But in Australia, people tend to just tap. You go somewhere, right? They just tell you, okay, tap your card, just tap. So, and that change has happened for a while. But people don't actually pay by cash. There are people paying by cash, but very limited people. So, and I think that kind of behavior is happening in different pockets of the world before that convergence will happen.
I would like to add some story to that actually. So there's two incidents. One was I went Hangzhou about a year ago before the whole entrepreneur program, and I love Hangzhou. And at that point in time, I was because I go to Shenzhen quite a fair bit, so I'm generally a WeChat user. And so when I went to Hangzhou to pay with my WeChat, the person looked at me one kind and was like, sorry, we do not accept WeChat.
Why?
Because they only accept Alipay.
Because it's territorial.
Yeah, so that is also happening. And after my entrepreneur program, I was actually in where did I go? Oh yeah, I went to Shanghai, and then I met up with a friend, and then I was opening up my wallet to get my card, and then she saw there was a whole bunch of renminbi in my wallet. She's like, wow, I have not seen so much money before in a while. And you're right, the consumer change is so drastic and so important that it was just about maybe a year plus ago where I was still using cash, and then all of a sudden it's just like done. Everything is it's
that's
really
the kind of, I totally agree.
And it's the same. It's the same when you look at places around the world. So like Hong Kong, everything the octopus card, you can go anywhere. Yeah, and the very also our friend down in Hong Kong, Alex from TNG. So there's a lot of movement going around, and it's also very different. So yeah, that is something very interesting to look at the user trend and how this will change during COVID-19. Any thoughts before we move into one of the questions from the audience? Okay, so Dave actually asked, this is a bit of a question about your competitor. How do you think the success factor of PolicyPal's ability to grow as fast as compared to you guys? You want to comment?
Sure. Let me take it up. Okay. We suddenly got internet issues. I think. Okay. Let me take it up. I think PolicyPal went on a different trajectory, and of course, we tend to think our business is slightly different than PolicyPal. If you realize, PolicyPal went into a ICO. There is a token known as PolicyPal Network, and that has been their that has been their business model when they went on to an Insurtech space, but then went on to an ICO. And that has, of course, given them some form of a capital injection as they built that business down in Singapore. And again, so I point out two different things versus PolicyPal versus PolicyStreet. First thing is they went into an ICO. And of course, the coin today, because of certain external factors, might not be so thriving. And hence, now she has got a different company, group, to acquire them. Secondly, PolicyPal works in a developed market. Singapore, to me, is a developed market. And if you look at insurance in Singapore, the penetration of insurance in Singapore is more than 100%. Whereas we tend to go after emerging markets, like Malaysia, where the penetration is about 50%. If you remove duplication, it's about 30%. And in other markets like Indonesia, Cambodia, which has lower penetration than what a developed market is. And hence why the way that we position ourselves, the way that we market insurance is different than what PolicyPal would do. PolicyPal is in a market where it is already highly penetrated. So they need to make sure that they can innovate in the way that they offer the products. How do they then, compete against the bigger giants who are offering other things? So they need to make sure that customers can buy double policy, triple policy. So I think that in itself already differentiates the way that we run the business versus what PolicyStreet does. Maybe Winnie or Wilson, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, just to add on one point, the most recent development of PolicyPal was that they were acquired by AMTD, which is a large group based in Greater China. I think this entire incident goes on to show that a fast-growing Insurtech startup has the ability and also the opportunity for an exit, whether it's via M&A, for example, under the case of PolicyPal. So it actually gives a lot more excitement and also different forms of interest for more people to come into Insurtech. So I think it's a very good development. And as an Insurtech co-founder, we do not look into just one market, but we look at the entire emerging market in Southeast Asia as a whole. And we are seeing also a change in terms of the interest in the Insurtech space, especially in the past 12 to 18 months. And we hope to see more changes to come.
Yeah, that's actually very insightful to look at it. And Yen Ming, you mentioned about ICO, and so I think let's transition to the big thing that is actually happening. So you guys are launching an ECF. Congratulations! And it's already out. For those who are looking at it, you can actually go to bit.ly PolicyStreet-ECF. So let's talk a bit of the process of going through ECF, why you guys decided to go ECF. And so ECF is the equity crowdfunding. Essentially, they are raising money from the public. They are using one of the ECF platform. And so who wants to go on this?
Yeah, maybe I'll run through it, and then of course I'll get Winnie or Wilson to add on to it. Just to again align to what Wilson was saying on PolicyPal's acquisition by AMTD, PolicyStreet, as a leading Insurtech in Malaysia, also had an acquisition offer sometime end of last year. In Q4 2019, we had an acquisition offer from a public listed company in Bursa, Malaysia. And then we went through all the due diligence. We actually completed due diligence with that public listed company on both legal and finance on audit on 31st December 2019. But unfortunately, we decided to walk away from that acquisition offer because we believe that the company can grow much bigger than what it is today. And we also want to give better returns to our stakeholders, to our shareholders. And when we went on to 2020, we already have certain private placements by VCs that will invest in PolicyStreet. That we have a commitment from actually two VCs that's already committed to pump money into PolicyStreet. But we also were contemplating on how we can get more Malaysians involved and more the public involved. Because what we want to do is we want to grow the company. The intent of us is to actually grow the company. And how best to grow the company than to actually get people like you yourself to come in and help us grow the company. And that's where the consideration of really going to ECF came about. And we were talking to Sam from Pitching, and he was telling us, that there are lots of companies. We were thinking whether there are any restrictions if we were to raise and pitch in. But little do we know that, a lot of successful companies have actually done successful crowdfunding of equity via pitching. And that's where we decided, we should open a block of what we want to raise to allow the general public to come in and help us grow the company. And we want the public to participate in our growth and get the returns that we are getting as founders or our VCs are getting as shareholders to also get the same kind of returns. So that's where, we started this journey. And I'm happy to say that, in the last 15 days of us turning on a pre-live on the pitching platform, we've had immense response. We had tremendous, commitments, pledges from various investors. And this cuts across all sectors of life. I mean, all stages of life. You've got the board directors, you've got the you've got the more seasoned people, you've got the likes of an average Joe that comes in now. And today we are just live. Again, this number that you see on us being live, when we turn on live today, we just came on live 30 minutes ago when we started this stuff.
Yes.
We've already met our minimum requirement. So the entire platform or the entire fundraising is already met their minimum, which means that the shareholders who have invested, the investors who have invested, will get shares in PolicyStreet. And we've also now proceeding to get the amount from those who have pledged. So we've got a few notable investors who are pumping the money, but of course, due to the MCO, there are some restrictions in terms of moving a large amount of funds. So that's why it's not being reflected today. But that is happening, and you will see us moving. So I hope those who are listening now do monitor that platform that you're seeing now, the one that Daniel is going through and surfing through. You will see the numbers going up and up, because obviously we've got people who have already committed who will be banking in the money. So this amount that you see here is actually the money that's in our trust account. So Pitchin has created a trust account, and the money is there in our trust account. So as people who have committed, they pump the money in, that number will go up. And we've got already a sizable amount of people who have committed. So, and we don't want you to miss the golden opportunity. So for those who are still contemplating, we hope that you take this move to secure your investment. Yeah, maybe Winnie, you want to add on a little bit?
Yeah, I think the response has been really unexpected, to be honest. Before we went into this ECF, it was the announcement of MCO came about, and we were thinking, okay, we have to rethink of how we're going to engage our prospective investors. There's no longer a physical roadshow that we can do. We can't do a physical pledge. So we have to rethink of how we're going to reach out to interested parties and convince them and encourage them to be part of our journey. So there's a lot of throwing the old rule book out of the window and pivoting and finding different ways. And so with the support of Sam's team, we really went out to do a virtual preview, and that was our test bed. The first virtual review was our test bed, and lo and behold, the response was just unexpected. And we thought, we can really run this during this MCO period. And, as what Yen Ming has pointed out, in the past 15 days, we were all doing virtual pitch to prospective investors. And we actually managed to raise, this amount that you see in the screen plus more. So it has been very an exhilarating journey, which really demonstrates how, anyone can really pivot in the times of unprecedented times, as long as they really understand how to meet the demands of the customers at that point in time. And for us, we believe that, being an insurance technology company, insurance is the first, there is a heightened sense of urgency when it comes to insurance, especially in this time of unprecedented scenario. And we are pretty much, in a right smack in the time where we have the, pent-up demand. We receive the pent-up demand from customers. We also have investors who want to maximize and optimize the resources that they have. Instead of putting in FD or other financial instruments, why not put in, supporting and investing in a company that is growing? So I think we are just right timing, right place, and we hope to close, this ECF strong. Yeah, back to you.
What is the total amount that you guys are raising? And also, like Wilson, if you want to share a bit of your the experience of doing all this investor pitching 15 days back, and congratulations for reaching this amount so quickly.
Yep, thanks, Daniel. So in the investment banking industry, there's this term called book building, or what we usually do during physical roadshow. You will go to different potential investors to pitch your business and to get commitments from various institutional investors or organizations. Similarly, in ECF, just to share with everyone, it is akin to be like a so-called, for lack of better term, it's like a mini IPO. Although the shares of a private limited can be traded and can be sold, but the process is very similar because we are engaging the public to invest into a private company. And under the ECF framework set up by Securities Commission of Malaysia, there is this nominee structure which allows the nominee to house more than 50 shareholders or investors in the Sdn Bhd. So this would allow companies like PolicyStreet, which is an issuer, to have more than 50 shareholders, so to speak, in our platform. So what we have done differently in the past 2 weeks was to really focus in two things. Number one, it is on the business fundamental of PolicyStreet. And number two, we reach out to strategic investors. We believe that even in crisis, there are still so many investors who are looking for underpriced assets, looking at sectors which are doing well or will be doing well after the end of the entire crisis. And we strongly believe that insurance is definitely one because it's highly resilient, right? And you can see that the shift of conversation in investment to protection. And this is where PolicyStreet is anchored at. We are a digital platform which allows our consumers to be protected easily online. And I think this business thesis, plus our past year of financial traction, has given a lot of faith and trust to investors out there. And secondly, why we think ECF is so interesting is that we are not just reaching out to get investors to pump in the money. In the past 2 weeks, suddenly now we have more than 90 people who are vested in the success of PolicyStreet. And out of these 90 people, they are board members of MNCs, they are senior MDs of listed firms, they are insurance industry experts who are now also part of PolicyStreet journey. Of course, apart from their financial investment, we can also now go to them to seek their support, advice, and also leverage their network to build the company to the next level. So I think we have been very much focused in these two narratives. Number one, look at the business fundamental. And number two, when we are doing ECF, it's not just about money. It is about how can we grow together, and of course, at the end of the day, to achieve the financial return together.
That is something quite amazing to look at that. And what is the minimum amount for the public to actually come in to invest?
It's as low as 2,514 ringgit. You will get one block, one lot. They call it one lot. It's 2,514 ringgit. We encourage everyone to have a look at it. It is it's as low as 2,514 ringgit.
We have another question from Dave. Actually, what's the future of you guys providing micro insurance product to masses or migrant workers?
This one I leave it to Winnie to answer.
Sure. Insurance is such a unique product. You can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't touch it. And it means that, insurance, right, can actually exist in all industries, all circumstances. As the world evolves, the more uncertainty it is, right, the more insurance is relevant because insurance thrives in uncertainty. The only reason why you want to buy insurance is because you are fearing or you want to protect your future, or you want to protect something from happening. When a business wants to grow, you don't want to have one business issue to hamper your growth. So as the world evolves, as we have autonomous cars, as we have flying cars in the future, there will always be insurance. It's a concept that will never change. That's one. And so to answer Dave's question, what is the future of us providing our own microinsurance? It is very, very possible. In fact, we are already have discussions and R&D internally to find different ways to plug into more value propositions for our audience. We are talking about, say, working with a telco to create microinsurance to bundle as part of their value proposition and to assess their target audience. We also talk about working with freelancers. In fact, how can we provide more protection whereby they are not confined in the typical employer-employee relationship? How can they also get covered? How can they also be protected? So we are definitely on the ball in this. We are definitely able to provide our own microinsurance products, and you will see future updates coming. So stay tuned and watch this space.
Yeah, and also looking at future updates, what are the immediate plans after you raise ECF?
There are two areas, actually three areas lah. So the first area is of course to ensure that we've got strong growth in the business that we have been focused on lah. So we're definitely going to focus more on the business side of things to make sure that our numbers are strong. And I think again we've just recorded a 580% jump year on year for our quarter one results 2020. And that is a testament to how we've been running the business lah. So we want to make sure that the business, fulfills the kind of projections that we put in, the kind of forecast that we put in, and surpasses it lah. That's number one. Number two, we are looking at licensing. So I think this is again a roadmap that we have promised to our investors, to our shareholders, that we will be looking at licensing. So today, we are an approved financial advisor and Islamic financial advisor under Section 11 and Section 15(1) of the Financial Services Act by Bank Negara Malaysia. We are looking at the capital market services license. That's number one. And then, of course, leading to that will be licenses like the offshore insurance license that we're looking at. And lastly, we are hoping that we can also vie for the digital insurance license. So I think licensing is key. And of course, last is expansion. And this has been a talk of town to a lot of our potential investors and also to the VCs that are interested in that. We are looking at key markets, and this again has been a work in progress. We have done groundworks in several markets. Unfortunately, two things: the MCO has prevented us from moving. Second, we wanted to close the funds before we actually dabble into those markets. So there's the Indo-China market and the Indonesia market that we are very interested in, and we have done groundworks in those markets. So these are the three key immediate things that we will be doing after we have closed our rounds.
All right, thank you very much. So Wilson, Yen Ming, Winnie, any final thoughts or final takeaway for our audience before we let you go? Just a quick one. Also, dedicate or say Team Penang. So Wilson.
Easy.
Wow, got Team Penang, Team Malacca. Wow.
From BM.
Wilson, you want to go first before we close?
Yeah, sure. I think we live in a very exciting time. The world is ever changing. For example, we are hit by this crisis, which we would never think of it 6 months or 9 months ago. Same goes to the world of technology. Business model is ever evolving. And for PolicyStreet, we are dabbling in a century-old industry, one of the oldest industries in the world. And what we are doing here, essentially, is to make protection simple, easy, and affordable to people who have yet to be served with protection. And of course, the journey has not been easy. We spent the past 3.5 years after leaving our corporate job to build the business. However, the past 1 year of traction has been extremely encouraging. And with the closing of this investment round, we are very confident that we are able to equip our capabilities to the most optimal level to help more Malaysians and Southeast Asians to be protected. So if you have not checked out our ECF offer, please feel free to do so at bit.ly/PolicyStreet-ECF. You can be our shareholder starting by investing 2,500 ringgit for 100 shares. Thank you.
Winnie?
No, I think Wilson has summed up pretty nicely. Go to the link right now and check us out.
I only have one parting word lah. To me is if you don't do it today, you might miss on the opportunity. Like we've mentioned earlier on, we've got a heavy commitment, and hence why today you can see even the amount that we're raising, we've increased it to allow for that allowance. There is actually a reason why we have increased it. We have decided internally and said, okay, we've increased it to allow for additional allowance because there is overwhelming response. So, and I urge you to act today, because if you don't act today, you might not have the opportunity to own that part of PolicyStreet and participate in our growth. So that's what I can tell you. That's it.
Just a quick summary. We are looking at 4 million in total amount, and you already have 90 investors that are listed. Yeah. So, so if anyone wants to find out more details, please go to the bit.ly link below and find out more about PolicyStreet and what their future are. I wish you guys all the best and congratulations on your initial success. I think we're going to see more stuff that's coming from you. Thank you very much for coming and sharing. I'm looking forward to see you go.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Yeah. So for the rest of us, we actually have a few other live streams that are happening next week. This coming week. Tomorrow we have Johnson Koo from WOWS, who will be talking about the future of love tech, and that will be something very interesting. If you are looking to figure out the next Tinder, check out WOWS. And then on Wednesday 2 p.m. we have Bobby Liu from Vietnam. He's a Singaporean based in Vietnam. He'll be sharing essentially about how do you access the 90 over million people in Vietnam. That's a fantastic market with a 50% internet penetration rate. So the internet penetration rate is actually larger than Malaysia alone already. And Thursday we have a couple of people. We have Victor from Vin Capital, and we have our grandmaster of the startup ecosystem, Jonathan Lee, will be coming on. And Friday we have Melissa Tan will be sharing about how to be eco in this COVID-19 situation. And on Saturday we have Noah Kagan, the founder of AppSumo, Chief Sumo. He was number 30 on Facebook. He was number 3 on Mint.com. So a great guy to actually learn. So thank you very much. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all 3 of you and congratulations again. See you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.